Thank you, everybody, for joining us for another episode. Just a quick reminder, our friend Michael David Wilson at the This Is Horror podcast is running a write-in and editing consultation service. For more information on that, go to michaeldavidwilson.co.uk/editing. Welcome to Dead Headspace, a part of Silver Shamrock's Horrorcast, a podcast network that includes Killing Time with Silver Shamrock and On Burying the Dead, where we exhume classic horror paperbacks for the new generation. I'm your host, Patrick R. McDonough. Unfortunately, my co-host, Brian LaFaro, could not make it with us today. He'll be back next week. And today, I am talking with the author and founder of the Read to Me program, Susan Straub. Say hi, Susan.
Hi, everyone.
And I'm really happy that we get to talk to you today. So thank you for joining me. And I'll just dive into it. What got you into reading?
Reading? Like reading, general reading?
I'm curious where this will go because Peter and we talk to all ages, all walks of life throughout literally the world. But you and your husband in particular you guys seem to have inspirations from authors that I sometimes don't know. Like he listed mid-March, an old Victorian book that I never heard of before. So I have a feeling that you have an interesting answer for that too.
Well, I think I've always loved being read to, and I think my earliest memories of shared reading was pretty much my mom or dad would read a bedtime book, and it often was to me and my sister. And then on Sundays, the Milwaukee Journal had a green sheet and a sheet of comics. And I remember Dad reading those, every weekend. So reading is, and both of my parents read books. My father more than my mother, but both of them were avid readers. And I was very good at reading because I had this older sister who taught me how to read, I think, and I picked it up rather quickly out of school, I'm sure. And I ended up just loving books and became an English major at the University of Wisconsin and managed reading is what else would you do with your free time? I mean, honestly, and at bedtime, I just love getting in bed and reading. It's just one of life's pleasures. So I think the natural thing for me when I became a mother was to read with my kids. And Peter often could make up stories, which I was never really very good at, but I could sure read. And you have to remember, if you have a little boy of 2, if you start using a funny voice for the monkey, you have to do that same funny voice for that same monkey every time, because the kids remember it. Anyway, it's just one of life's pleasures.
Yeah, I do silly voices for him. It makes him laugh. It makes it hard though. I put myself in a corner with that because he doesn't take me serious when he needs to listen sometimes. So that's the downside. But as far as your past with reading goes, did your parents have a particular author, genre, or anything like that they really gravitated towards?
Well, my father loved, I think because he had been in the Navy in World War II, he loved Herman Wouk and John le Carré. And I think Dad read like Nero Wolfe. I mean, it was detective fiction maybe. But he read a variety of books, but I think they were not the classics, like not Victorian fiction, as you said. I did read Middlemarch yet again during COVID. And my mom, I don't remember if she had particularly favorite authors. As I say, she didn't read as much as Dad, so I don't think she was as obsessed.
Now, I got two suggested books to me from Jill Lansdale. And I was wondering if your dad maybe was interested in
Oh,
these.
Raymond Chandler and Dashiell Hammett. Oh my God, yeah. In fact, I just finished reading a Raymond Chandler novel.
Yeah.
What was it called? The Longest Goodbye.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Oh, it is unbelievably great, just fabulous.
I'm new to him,
Um,
so
yeah, and
I
I
get
think
it.
it's been made into a film, which I haven't seen in a very long time. If several of them were made into films,
Yeah.
but it's such a specific language, specifically smart, easy writing. Um, it's just a deep swallow. It's just so wonderful, just rich stuff.
Yeah. These, at least the two books that I got, the Hammett and Chandler ones, they're not super long, but I am curious you're if you have an opinion on longer books and how today's generation, I don't mean to really phrase it like that, but for lack of knowing how else to phrase it, given that like social media and Twitter and all that stuff, like how everything is instantaneous, do you have an opinion on like how reading itself has evolved over the last few decades?
I think I do actually. We're talking about grown-up fiction
Yeah. Oh,
now,
yeah. Yeah. Yep.
grown-up reading, and I don't read a lot of nonfiction, so I'm not very good at, excuse me, reporting on that. Um, I think I often have three books going, so a long book. Um, I need a place to come home to every day. So
It's a nice way to
so
put that.
long book gives me that. And, Trollope and Dickens very often, the Victorian writers, would not only remind you of the character, but they would give a little title to each chapter.
Mm.
You would be reminded about the coming of the locomotive to the farmlands in Yorkshire, let's say, or
Mhm.
something like that. And so you can really fall right back into it. So I I think real readers read the books that they want to read. And I think new readers may be put off by a very long book. So I think you and Peter might have agreed on that. On the other hand, um, I think some of us have read a lot of trilogies or longer. I mean, like all those Harry Potter books. I mean,
Yeah.
you added them all together, it's a quarter of a shelf or a half a shelf, right?
Yeah, they're huge.
The other thing that I think has changed is audiobooks.
Mm.
For the first time ever, I also download audiobooks. And when I take daily walks, I have a story in my ear.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and we don't have a car anymore. We stopped driving a long time ago. It's New York City. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, so but when we had a car, and I suppose all of you who do drive a lot, we would put on often an audio, and all four of us, we have a son and a daughter, when we were driving someplace, we would all listen to a good story.
That's cool.
Yeah.
When when I first knew that Peter would come on and bring him up because of the audiobooks, I was telling one of my author friends, he's been writing since the 80s. I don't know if you've heard of him, Ronald Kelly, but he was like, oh, I listened to Coco on cassette tape when that was on audiobook. And I'm like thinking to myself, that's crazy because I'm listening to it on an MP3 file. And it's really neat because I don't know what the next stage in technology advancements will be, but I mean, books are always going to stay here. I always think it's so weird how people say that people don't read as often anymore. There's so many formats, and I think we're in the same camp where we both know that humans are meant and programmed to read and want to tell stories. And
Absolutely.
his bottom line is if you take stories away, what do you got? It's a pretty boring life. I would like it if we could talk about one of your books, Reading with Babies. I think it's an adorable cover, by the way, little
Oh, do
baby
you?
smile. I
Oh,
got
good.
it.
Well, you mean the book that this one?
Mhm.
Yeah. The reason I mentioned this to you, Patrick, is because my colleague and I, and then a children's librarian at the Brooklyn Public Library, worked very hard to make sure that this is actually the second edition of this, was as up to date with actual titles.
Oh,
Yeah. So although it's a bit dated now, it still is. What do you give to a family? What do you give to a newborn? Everybody's going to give the mother and father a copy of Pat the Bunny, but what else is out there for those who don't know? Tips about ebooks and apps for very young children. How do I make up a story? Should I make up a story for my child? And then we actually asked we asked a bunch of babies, families, what are your kids reading? Like I just asked you about what is your little guy reading, and choosing again and again and again, because it means something to him. He has authority over choosing that book. And then the other thing that's in here is a chart dotted throughout. I'll just find it quickly, where there were ages and stages, so that what is reading? I think anytime a kid touches a book, it's reading. I mean, I'm extremely open-minded. But getting started, what can the baby do with the book, the reading experience, at what stage? So we do newborn, heads up, sitting, creeping and crawling, cruising and walking, talking a few words. That's where your little guy is, right? He certainly is walking. And then talking a few more words, running, but not talking anymore, running, and then talking all the time, right? So that's a sort of a chart. And we purposely didn't say that 2 to 6 months this is what you can do, because babies just are like the rest of us. They grow and develop at their own rate. Some kids are walking at 1, some aren't walking up until almost their 2nd birthday. They've got something going, but it's not quite walking. So so that's where that could be a resource. And the other resource would be your children's librarian in your public library. They've got the books. My kids and I used to go once a week. And I think this follows on from my own childhood and Peter's, where we always went to the library, always.
Same.
You could get 6 books on your library card, and there would be summer reading programs. And I think the libraries have changed with the times, but for little kids, it still is hands-on for those picture books.
Yeah.
And I think now that COVID is passing, I think parents are going to be more relaxed. You don't get COVID-19 from touching surfaces. And the kids are wearing masks, so it's fine. And the libraries are so wonderful. I have never met a crabby librarian. I don't know. I just love them.
That's amazing. There's so many great points and things you brought up. I know I told you off air, but just for any potential readers, so me and my wife and son, we like to go on bike rides. Philip goes on a seat that's attached to the front part of my bike. I don't like the idea of him behind me. That just, I'd always be looking over my shoulder. So that's just a me thing. But we live in a small South Jersey town. It really feels like it's just like a time capsule of, at least right now, a small town feeling, and it's great. And the library is within bike distance, and there's a little shop there, and I found
Oh,
this.
great. Thank you.
Oh, for audio listeners, by the way, a video version in a audio version, but audio listeners won't be able to see it if they're just listening. So the book I'm holding up is by Susan's daughter, Emma Straub. It is all adult there. Is there anything that you'd want people, that readers that aren't currently aware of her or haven't read her books, what would you like to tell them about her?
Oh boy. I knew she was going to be an artist from the get-go. She is, she's a lot of fun too. And I mean, she's just sort of a marvelous person. I had a friend whom I've had since our two little girls were in pre-K together.
Wow.
And so this goes back quite a long time. And she said, you know, Emma is one of those rare people who is universally beloved.
Oh.
And I kind of think it's true. I mean, she kind of was born this kind of wonderful little person, and I feel quite lucky that I got to be her mom.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, and yeah, she's wonderful, and her writing is witty, fun, interesting, full of observations, not at all like her dad's works at all. And I also think it's brave. I mean, you know, a lot of kids, I think, are intimidated by their parents' occupations, but Emma never was. I mean, she just loved that her dad wrote books and her mom ran around the city getting mothers to read with their babies. You know, she was also very, very happy with life as a writer and life with books. And then she and her husband, Mike, moved to be within easy walk of a very, very old and beloved independent bookstore here in Brooklyn called Book Court. And Emma worked there for a while anyway, while it was still in operation. And then they decided to call it a day, and the owners retired and sold the bookstore property, and that was the end of that. So Emma and Mike said, we can't live without being within walking distance of an independent bookstore. We'll just have to open one. And so they did. It's called Books Are Magic. And all of your, I mean, they actually have a wide and wonderful bookstore. That what I mean by wide is that there are lots of choices. I know that your readers aren't necessarily the kind of books that I personally choose to read, but they have a wonderful children's department. They have fairly good poetry. They have a wonderful cooking and paperbacks, and obviously, you know, first run fiction and nonfiction. It's just a wonderful bookstore, and everything that they own and do events for is online, of course. And they survived. The community loves them so much that they got through COVID even in those dark days when everything was shuttered. So thanks to the reading, there's another answer for you about, do you think books are going to die out? Well, no.
Wow, that's so cool. Like talking to Peter, talking to you, listening to Emma. You know what? 2 years ago, whenever Peter was really sick last time and things weren't looking great, I saw a lot of tweets from your daughter. And that's the first time I consider this something I read by her. It's weird to phrase it like that because she's an author, but the first thing I read by her was a series of tweets about her dad. And I thought it was the sweetest thing ever because, selfishly bringing this up, but as a writer myself, when I go, I hope at least one person that likes my stuff is my kid, and doesn't even have to like the content. Just this is one way I can know my father, and yeah, it's just something about you Straubs that I just kind of love. It's like the Lansdale family, the Kings. I don't know any of the Kings, but I've listened to a lot of interviews with Tabitha and Steven and Joe and some of Owen, and it's just, you guys are a lovely family. So that you're talking about the Brooklyn neighborhood that everyone really likes you guys, and it makes sense. Speaking of Brooklyn, my wife and I took a vacation to New York, and the only time I've been to Brooklyn was a few years ago. That's a really nice part of New York. Manhattan makes my anxiety level go to new heights, but going to parts of like Brooklyn or I forget what the other village was. It's not Queens or whatever. Brooklyn just felt like a small old neighborhood. And that's good to know she has a bookstore there because I'm always looking for bookstores and I really like that part. Is there anything else about her or maybe even your other kid, Ben, that you want to bring up before we move on?
Well, she has another novel coming out in the spring.
Oh,
This Time Tomorrow, and you'll begin to see some publicity. She is published by Riverhead, and I think they are a magnificent publisher. They're totally supportive. They're smart. Their advertising kind of publicity stuff is adorable, very witty, playful. So it's a wonderful place for her. I'm happy for them and happy for her that she's there. And our son Ben, who lives in Los Angeles, has been functioning as Peter's film agent, and he has options on almost every single thing that Peter's written now. And some of them get to advanced stages of development. But, Hollywood is, somebody once said to me something like, Hollywood has perfected the art of saying no in the slowest possible way.
That's so annoying.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you have experience too. So they seem to string you along saying, this is the next best movie. This is going to be perfect. We can get, top-notch directors and actors. This is perfect for everybody. And then 3 years later, we're sorry, we're not going to be able to do this. So anyway, Ben works very hard, and one day, touch wood, it'll all pay off.
I really think that Coco would make such a crazy HBO series, because that's, in my opinion, that's the way, with a book that long, just that one alone, never mind the other two, that's the way to go. Like, me and my friends that are fans of your husband talk about that, and there's so many angles. I like history. I'm really fascinated by war, like parts of war, and the Vietnam War in that lens that he painted. It would be super interesting.
Well, I agree with you, and I think, from your voice to, the producer's ears, I think they are actively thinking about that as just as you've described.
That'd be great.
There are more venues that have opened up, not just the big cinema house movies, but smaller things on television that's in everybody's home. Anyway, thank you. I will pass that on to Ben.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I would love it if I could talk to you about your first self-published book, The Fire Chief, and for video viewers, we're going to show you a clip of me and Susan talking with the limited vocabulary that my son has real quick. And for audio listeners, that's the transition that you're about to hear.
Do you go to the fire station sometimes? Did you visit a fire engine?
We did. Mm-hmm. We went to my coworker, is one of my buddies. He works at a fire department, and he said, bring your kid by sometime and he can ride in the fire truck. So we went around a few blocks, and he was nervous at first, and then he settled into himself. He was just going crazy. But seeing those pictures of your grandson Sebastian, look at that.
Here's a picture. Do you recognize that as a fire truck? Is that a fire truck? Yeah, it makes that sound. Yeah.
So
it's hard to know how to write that sound, but I agree with you.
He'll be 2 in a couple of weeks, and it's really cool hearing his speech development. But we got to buy that book. I know that it's your first. We can talk about that later. But actually, he loves looking at fire truck books, likes dinosaur books, likes colors. That's kind of his thing right now.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Totally wonderful. And it only gets better. Does he have favorite books? That he likes again?
Yeah, so right now, because they switch every few months, is this one about colors. And each page, one of them has a spinning wheel where it goes from the color, and for green, there's a frog, yellow, there's a sun. And then the next page, like in the same open pages, you could see different things of that color, and we're helping them recognize what those are. And it's just really neat.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to do the introduction?
I like colors too. I think today my favorite color might be oatmeal. Yeah. What are you holding?
He's holding his dinosaur. Sorry, I can't get the camera to go down. He loves dinosaurs.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
He loves it. And he loves zebras, elephants, and giraffes. Long neck animals he has a thing for. It's really interesting.
He's on track for being a perfect boy.
Yeah. Oh, okay. He's leaving himself. Say bye-bye. Hey, say bye-bye to Susan.
Bye. Did you catch this? Bye-bye.
Okay. So Susan, I'd love it if I could hear from kind of your own words how this came about, how you came about writing The Fire Chief.
Oh, well, I have 3 grandsons, and they all are just like Philip. They were all dinosaur freaks. They were all firefighters at a certain point.
Yeah.
And Ben's son, whose name is Sebastian, was the fire chief, and he had all the gear, and they lived quite near a local fire station, and so they would visit frequently. And one of the favorite firefighters at that particular station was I don't know what they're called exactly, but they're peripatetic. I mean, they kind of fill in, I think, or they're new at one station and then they move on to another one or a different rank or something. And that person who Sebastian seemed to like a lot was this woman firefighter. And so I decided I would write a story. I try to write stories for each of the boys, and it's it's for the boys. I didn't know that I could, I haven't yet published my own stories. I'm still trying. And I'm in a writers group, all of whom are very encouraging.
That's awesome.
And Emma and I, this is a little view into the future. She and I together wrote, and it's being illustrated, a story about Gaga. That's me, Gaga, and one granddaughter whom I don't have, but so it's a story about Gaga and the granddaughter having every Saturday together while the parents go out and do whatever they need to do. And the grandmother's really hilarious. I mean, she does fun and funny stuff, and they have a nice bond. Anyway, so I've been writing these little kid books for my grandsons each birthday. And so this one I wrote for Sebastian, but I'll just show you really quickly. This was at one point, this is Emma and Mike's younger child, whose name is Miles. And he loved doing the sorting the laundry.
Yeah.
His parents. And so I wrote him that. And these are all photographs that I took. But these photo albums you can make on Shutterfly, you can anything. And this is the most recent one I made for River, which is for his 8th birthday.
That's
and again,
cool.
They're just photographs. This one is just photographs, but I did write a book for River when he was younger. And he was obsessed with, when we would go to the Museum of Natural History, he was obsessed with a character in one of the dioramas called Okapi.
Okapi.
Now,
what is that
Okapi, Okapi. We if we heard it once, we heard it a million times.
Yeah.
And I always forgot where it was in the museum. But anyway, so that was River's story. And I would love to get these things published, but at the moment they're self-published, so that's fine. So that's how I did that. You were asking about the fire chief.
Yeah.
And I have a very good friend who teaches children's book illustration at the 2 art colleges in New York City, Parsons and Pratt. And she introduced me to a wonderful student, Andrea Peretti. And we did this little book together. And I just think the drawings are exceptionally good, don't you?
I like them. I actually was going to ask where can people go to buy that book, because I actually want to buy a copy.
Oh, yeah. You can buy it at Books Are Magic. I think they have a few extras. Anyway, it would be, if you don't. One other little fun thing that Andy did, the illustrator, they put in little things, like every page is black and white, but there's the red fire hat.
I saw that, and I you know what, I forgot to ask, why is that? Could I see that again?
For the joy of it. I mean, it highlights the child. You're the child. You're not reading the words. You're reading the pictures. Well,
yeah, my eyes attracted to that red.
Yeah. Mine too. I thought it was genius.
I'm just looking. I love that. I took a screenshot of that. That's so cool. Oh. Yeah, I want to buy a copy of that for my boy. He would love that. So like you and I were talking about earlier, about when Philip was going in the fire truck, I would like to hear about Sebastian's experience in a fire truck, because you have pictures of that on your website. And I mean, how cool is that? Like,
how cool is that? Absolutely.
It's just, we'll get into this later if you want. My wife, like you, is a social worker, and opened my mind up to so many incredible things. But it's social workers, firefighters, police officers, so forth. They're really important, and you're not gonna really learn about them in school. And the fact that he got to be surrounded by the people that save lives. I mean, tell me about that experience. I want to hear about it.
He loved it. I mean, who doesn't love firefighters? Honestly, they're just
Right?
they run towards danger, don't they? And
Yeah.
they give us such reassurances, and they're fabulous people, I think. Anyway, Sebastian loved it, and he loved being able to give the firefighter station a copy of the book
Oh,
featuring their fire station. Oh, I guess I
no
was,
kidding.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's cool. Sorry, I got lost in this motion picture. I'm on for anyone that's listening, readingwithbabies.com. One of the things that you can go on is the fire chief, and that is a really neat picture, a series of pictures. It looks like kind of stop motiony where you're holding your book, the fire
Oh
chief.
yeah, it's Speedy. Speedy.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting distracted by. So you know what? I would like to actually move on to Read to Me, the program where you founded it, 25 years ago?
Well, it was longer ago than that, but it ran for 25 years.
Oh, okay.
One of the significant advantages of being married to Peter was that I no longer earned the rent money and the grocery money. And so I was liberated to do this Read to Me project, which came out of a lot of psychoanalytic work and training in child psychotherapy, and actually a clinical social work degree from NYU.
Hmm.
And so I see this. I mean, it's interesting that your wife is a social worker.
Yeah.
I see the Read to Me program as a kind of applied social work, or a therapy, or mother and baby care, for the goodness that's in it. You know, it is a shared experience for the mother and the child, the father and the child.
Mhm.
And it is the closeness, the bonding, the shared experience, where you can, you turn the page and you say, well, where's the broom? I don't see the broom on this page. Do you think they're going to find the broom? The child is all set to, what's next? What's going to happen, even without words. So I think, the richness that children's picture books provide, both parent and child, just should not be avoided. It should be encouraged, and it's one of the tools of raising children, I think, to put it a kind of a crude way. But it's such a deep pleasure, for, as I say, for both parent and child. So I always had a soft spot in my heart for teen mothers who were just at the point of being able to escape the family into some kind of independence and being fully grown up and move on. And then there's this challenge. And the New York public school system 35 years ago had an excellent program for keeping teen moms in school. And they developed a series of classrooms, which were kind of daycare classrooms. And so the moms would bring the babies to the daycare, to the classroom, the life center, and they would then go off to geometry or Spanish or English or history or PE. And in the beginning, when I ran it, it was with the child development class, social social and child development class. And that was great because the moms really could get together, and they brought in resource materials to give to the moms. And so I brought in the Read to Me program, and that was always fun. I had a series of 6 different sessions, each one of which could attract the attention and the interest of a mom in the group, or lots of moms in the group. So there were art projects, there were trips to the library, there were free reading projects, there were making a book for your baby. It was a lot of different things, 6 different sessions. And the very end, I brought in a real live writer illustrator, and we gave each of the families, the young families, a copy of an autographed book by that person, that author illustrator. And we celebrated with cupcakes, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun, as you can imagine. I mean,
Yeah.
We had a good time.
That's incredible. I mean, you were quite literally being a positive change in many lives. I mean, I love books. Even as a kid, my mom would bring me and my siblings to our local library. And we would have summer programs would be my favorite time. I'm originally from Massachusetts, so not a fan of I'm not a fan of snow, which is why I moved down to South Jersey, I realize it's not South enough. We still get snow here. But I bring up the library thing because it's a neat tradition. I mean, it goes, I don't know if some people realize this, but libraries go as far back as like ancient Rome. Like it's an essential part of, how do I word this? It's an essential part of growing and learning and evolving as a species. I mean, it's
Yes.
how we connect with each other,
Yes.
I got so many things I want to pull from what you just said, but let's go back to social work itself, because I like to really talk about this for people that don't maybe realize it, because I was there before I met my wife, and that was back in 2013. We started dating, and she's always done stuff like that. She's always volunteered her time. When she graduated high school, her parents said, we can go to Disney World, or we could go to where is it? Oh man, I should know what the country is. I forget where it is. It's right near Mexico, but she volunteered her time there, and that's what she chose to do that. And that's the type of person she is. And it's just, she's opened my eyes up with like mental health awareness, how it's portrayed, and I think it's slowly getting better, but how it's portrayed by like Hollywood. I can't really say the independent side of stuff, because I know a lot of the creators, and they're very aware and trying to do better with it. But it's really important, because for me, before I realized that stuff, I would focus on the unknown being scary, which makes me afraid of those people. And by those people, I mean like someone that's suffering with schizophrenia. Like, they're not the thing to be afraid of. The disease is, meaning that like that's scary to have any of that. So for as far as social work goes, I'd like to know from you. I hate to kind of put this on you, but like I'm interested to hear what you think. Is there anything about social work, in your opinion, that more people should maybe be aware of, to consider being aware of? Because I know social work is a very vague and broad term, but I'll end with that.
Well, I have one answer for you, Patrick, which is that it's important for all of us to have someone to talk with, to talk to, somebody who isn't always a member of the family who's got a bias, who said, don't you ever talk to me like that, or those are bad thoughts, to be able to speak to somebody who actually and actively is listening. And that's where I think social work is one of the, someone with whom a person can talk and share worries, anxieties, various kinds of grievings, worries about raising your children, worries because your child is killing small animals in the backyard, which is the genesis of many a mass murderer, it seems.
Right.
What I was gonna bring it back to, because it's more my thing, is I think I mentioned to you that there are a lot of books that deal obliquely with things children are worried about. But for example, and this is in a foreign language, and I just wanted to bring that up because it doesn't matter what you read to a baby.
Is that German?
This is monkey, and it's written with just pictures, no words at all.
I love that illustration.
You and the kid are on the same page, totally.
That's awesome. That is.
And
about animals.
I'm just pulling this up. There are a lot of, published by American writers and illustrators, but this one I just pulled because I found it. And it's about this little boy who's totally attached to his monkey. And he goes out in the woods and he loses the monkey, and the monkey gets taken over by birds and dropped in the river. And it's a fine story at the end, but you know how it is if a child has lost its beloved stuffy, it's bad news, right, for everybody. So there's that, just to say, this one is about various fears. This guy, Max Vilchus, is no longer living with us, but his books sure live on.
Yeah, Frog is frightened, for the audio listeners. Sorry to cut you off. I just want to keep
Frog is frightened. This man's work is wonderful, just amazingly good. He's won lots of international prizes during his lifetime, and he came up with Frog. And Frog is a little child, and he's afraid of lots of different things, but he's bold and brave, and he comes through it in the end. So I love, being afraid of things that go bump in the night. That book is about that. This one's for a slightly older child, but again, I just sort of grabbed it. Where this little girl is excited to have her birthday's coming up, and she is so looking forward to her dad, who's away on a business trip or something, come back and celebrate and bring her a gift and give her a hug for her birthday. And he gets caught either in, because his work kept him over, or the plane that was bad weather. I can't remember exactly. He can't be there on the day. And so she, of course, is very angry. And she has a nightmare, and then daddy returns. I mean, in real life, in the book. So again, it's showing a child having genuine emotions. And this again is a little kid being dropped off at daycare or, preschool. And he's terrified to be there, but mama left her gloves behind. And so he can sort of hold on to the gloves. He holds on to his mother by holding on to the gloves. So, I mean, there are ordinary children, frogs, who have problems that are solved in children's picture books.
That is so sweet. I love stuff like that. That stuff gets me choked up too. Is it so? For you
too, Patrick? That's what you need. And this is fun too. Tad Hills happens to be a local
Ed Hills,
wonderful
Ducks and Goose, a
illustrator.
gift for Goose.
Duck and Goose. Now, Duck and Goose, you know, they have little kid experiences. And whether or not the duck is going to get this box, and what is that? I want one too. You know, how do little kids learn to share? And Duck and Goose, well, just pick it up and quack.
It's
Great
that
fun.
I love talking to parents about that stuff because, like, I have a great kid. I'm not saying that because he's my kid, but like me and Tara try hard every day to, you know, we don't yell at him and won't believe in all that stuff of like definitely don't hit your kid or nothing like that. But
Absolutely right.
when he's at a playground, because he was born in 2019, November 26, 2019. So COVID just ran rampant and he couldn't play with anyone for like a year or whatever it was. I don't know time. I don't know what time is anymore, but when he started to, he did good. And it you know, you could tell that he needed it. And the only thing is he wasn't sure how to share. And me and Tara didn't think about that. He's the only kid right now. So he like took some kid's truck, or he starts collecting them, and it's like he doesn't need all the trucks in the sandbox. Like there's certain playgrounds that have toys. I don't know how common this is anywhere else, but certain parts in this area, there's playgrounds with toys for, you know, public use. And I have to sit him down like, listen, bud, you can't be doing that. And I know he hears and understands everything, but I'm wondering, like, is he not listening because he doesn't care and he wants to play with the toys? But my whole point of bringing this up is I love books like that where you teach them things that you might not even think about, but until you're a parent. But it's so important. And this
Oh
may
yeah.
be a leap, but I think there's some misconnect from that point to adulthood where some adults forget like how important the basics are, because there's that sense of childhood and magic and all that stuff in all those books, like basic ways to live life and whatnot. It's just I kind of wish more adults were like kids at times. I'm just curious if you're able to maybe articulate why your calling was with younger mothers and babies.
I was in student mental health for a number of years before I did these additional trainings. And so I had students from about age 16, 17 through sometimes even 30. And there's a basic need to, I guess to have some understanding of themselves for sure, but that starts to be the age when you really start thinking hard about what you did or didn't get as a baby and a small child. And it's a kind of rich time of life, actually. I think teen years into your early adult life, and it's full of challenges. And for most of the young moms and families I met, being pregnant wasn't sort of the problem. You know, I mean, it was an additional challenge, but it wasn't really where some of the difficulties were in their lives. And so to give them for themselves the richness of stories to tell and artwork to look at seems just a good thing to do. I don't know.
That
Takes this, doesn't it sort of, I mean, we both learn from reading, as you and I have mentioned just with these books that we've just talked about, and fiction in general. I I always think, people say, oh, you don't, what do you learn except storytelling from reading novels? I said, oh my God, I read novels to find out how you do stuff and how people interact. And
Yeah.
it's a story. And we learn more from stories than from straightforward scientific journals, I think. I mean, anyway, that's beside the point. But I think we need stories in our lives. You and I've established that from the get-go.
Yeah.
And we need art in our lives, and
Yeah.
both of them. And I haven't talked about music or dance, music and dance. I mean, all of the arts. The sooner we share those things with our children, we have more fun too. I mean, if you and your wife put on, Felix Hernandez of a Saturday morning on WBGO. I don't know if you listen. I do. He does all the oldies but goodies for rhythm and blues. And I find myself, dancing around, and the little guys are dancing with me.
We got, so in South Jersey, in this area, I'm closer to Atlantic City, about 30 minutes east of that. And we got a station called Wibbage. But we got Alexa in our house. I got mixed feelings about that. I don't trust the technology, but at the same time, it's so convenient. So those bastards, they know how to get you. But what I'm doing is I'm consciously trying to run through as many different genres of music as I can, just see what he likes. Like,
yeah,
because of my father having a stereo system and always playing typically classic rock, which, Led Zeppelin or the Beatles or any of those. I have a fondness for vinyl. I also collect CDs too. So I kind of like to, we got some jazz records, we got rock and roll and a bunch of stuff like that. But I like to see what Philip likes. And I like to see just what makes him happy. And he'll start doing that, bobbing up and down as he likes. Oh my God, it cracks me up. I wanted to go back to, as much as I love horror, I like a good story. Like, some of my favorites are Alice in Wonderland, Through the Looking Glass. Like, I love Lewis and Carroll. I love The Wizard of Oz, Frank Baum's Wizard of Oz. What else is it? Chronicles of Narnia. I mean, I got the whole series. I love it. And Lord of the Rings. I absolutely adore that. And I think Tolkien had like 5,000 manuscript pages of that world. Like, that was his world. And I've learned a lot from him. Yeah, we're talking about different worlds, but like the language, how the syntax of, the design of and structure of a story itself. Like, I love audiobooks, but nothing comes close to paperbacks. And I wanted to talk about this earlier, paperbacks and hardbacks, but especially now with all the free libraries that we got throughout our town, Philip and I really enjoy. We have to cut back, or Mom will kill Dad, because I only got so much space. Like, I got one bookshelf. Our house isn't as big as I would like it to be. First world issues, I know, but I want more room for books. And it's just that I got in a safely stored away most of my Stephen Kings, except for the few that I want to really read that I haven't got to yet. And we go to those free libraries, and he freaks out. Like, he loves them, and I love them, and he likes to get up, look through them. I hold them up because he's not tall enough yet. So there's one near us that has bubbles for kids. I mean, how cool is that? Like, one of the greatest books that I like is Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. And I'm not saying it is a hard book, but like the idea of you got to burn books, like, that's so scary to me. Like, it's a great way to set up Nazi Germany, right? I mean, like, they did crap like that.
I agree. It's evil. I mean, it's evil.
So I want to jump ahead to something that only you and very few people, I can only think of you and Tabitha King. You guys are in a very specific camp, meaning you guys are and have always been involved in the world of literature. Your kids have and are involved in that world, the writers as well. And your husbands are two of the most world-renowned writers ever. I'm really wondering, from the human perspective, from when before he sold Julia, because he told us that story about basically, and I asked him, do you credit your wife for kind of being the one that helped you get through the tough times? And he did. Tabitha King did that with Stephen King with Save and Carry. My wife saved my life, I feel like, when I first met her, because I wanted to always do better. So I'm wondering, from your point of view, how over the last few decades with Peter, seeing him develop as a human and as an author, I'd like to hear anything that you want to say about that. Excuse me. Anything at all that you want to say about kind of your experience with seeing your husband reach the goals that he's dreamed of reaching.
Well, after 55 years, I'm still learning. He has always been knowledgeable, witty. He can listen to Paul Desmond and he can tell you which phrases are the most important for you to take note of. At the same time, he's reading a novel. At the same time, he's writing a paper or putting down an idea somewhere, and multitask. There we are.
Yeah.
There we are, Patrick. He can multitask. He's an extremely generous man. He's likable and friendly, and has had all kinds of friendships and experiences of meeting interesting people from all walks of life. So he's a wonderful man. He's a wonderful man, and very self-directed. So I insisted on family dinners every night. So he would work in the mornings or in the afternoons. He would break for dinner and bedtime reading, and then he would go back to his office and work some more. He worked very, very hard. You have to, if you're writing books of that dynamic and length, you just have to go there and do it. So he did that. And I also think, I am not sure if Tabitha King and I would agree on every single thing we have dealt with our spouses, but I do know that we have been more in charge of the family and the household. Tabby has written several novels, and she raised 3 children and a big house and an ever-growing empire of her husband's life, and sits on the board of the foundation. I mean, she's in charge, and I think I, in many ways, have had a similar experience of being in charge of many of the major decisions and the daily, what's for lunch kind of thing.
I was going to ask if you guys still talk with the Kings, if you're still friends with them.
Oh, we are. Oh, indeed. Yeah, we know their sons and their daughter. It's become, over time, if you're not working on a project together, if you don't live near one another, the relationships suffer a bit. But we're all very in touch and mutually fond. And Emma is very much in touch with Owen in particular.
Oh.
And yeah, and a couple of times she has gone to his neighborhood independent store to do a reading, and he and his wife show up, and we get Christmas cards. I mean, we've been very, very, very lucky to know that entire family.
Yeah, like I said earlier, you guys all seem like just generally good people. So I'm going to wrap up with listeners, if you want to go to check out some Dead Headspace merch, check out some reviews, articles written by previous guests, all you have to go to is deadheadspace.com. And I just want to ask, final question is, do you have any final thoughts? That was a weird way to phrase that. Do you have any sorry, I got a little guy that insisted on coming in.
Hi, Philip.
Can you say goodbye? Can you say goodbye?
Bye.
We just wanted to know if you had any final thoughts, Susan.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, he's very grabby and very talkative.
Here we go. Can you do a thumbs up, Philip?
Like that,
thumbs up.
Thumbs up. We're not there yet. He does give high fives. Mommy, can you take little man? Thank you.
Gorgeous.
Thank you. I was just asking if you have any final thoughts before we say goodbye to each other.
Oh dear, I don't know. I was going to mention just one thing because of the pandemic. Those of us who survived have survived. And this is a brand new picture book by a wonderful illustrator, Brian Floca. And it's a kind of love letter to the people who were out while we were all stuck in our houses and in our apartments. So it's not just the firemen and the delivery and the sanitation workers and the police. It's the guys on bikes. It's the bus drivers. It's the Con Ed here in New York. It's the mailman, the FedEx delivery person, and it's the illustrations are just wonderful because he's an excellent man with an ink pen and whatever these pictures are sometimes. And it's just a sweet new brand new picture book where there's hope. And all of us, I think, do feel a deep gratitude to not just the hospital workers, not just the ambulance drivers, not just the firemen and police to keep us safe, but the delivery guys and women. And so, I mean, if I hope parents got through a lot of the enforced sequestration with some fun, and that books were part of that, to share aloud, to tell an ongoing story. I don't know, but just to encourage people to use books, enjoy books. That's
amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, my final thoughts are real simple, short and sweet. Is I appreciate your time. It means a lot to me, and I love talking about kids and reading. So it's really awesome having you on for so many reasons. So thank you for this, Susan.
Thank you for inviting me, Patrick. All the best to you and your wife and Philip.
Gonna be ordering 2 copies of The Fire Chief when we're done talking. One for me and one for my nephew that just turned 1 the other week. So I can't wait to give that to her for a little Christmas gift. Yeah. Listeners, next episode 126, is with Christopher Golden. That airs next Monday. And as usual, you have many choices in podcasts. Thank you for picking us. I did watch that video. It was a short clip. It was you and Emma in a library, and it seemed like a lot of fun. Do you guys have a lot of recordings of your Read to Me program?
I have a video that is absolutely fabulous.
Where's that at?
It's on on DVD. I didn't know if there would be time to even mention the Read to Me program, but I spent an awful lot of energy. Does that read forwards or backwards?
No, it's forwards. Probably back in reverse for you. I don't know why it does that.
It is. Anyway, we did it in English and in Spanish voiceover.
Oh, wow.
And it's video about the Read to Me program with teen moms. And we had a lot of fun with it. And we actually won a little prize for it too.
Wow.
And I think, I have quite a lot of them. And if anybody is interested, if they got to me through the readingwithbabies.com website, I would send them that. It's because if you have families for whom reading with a baby is a wild idea, it helps to show other normal moms and babies and families reading with their babies. As you may or may not know, some parents say, well, the kid doesn't understand anything. Yeah. So what's the point of reading to him? Well, that's the point, that the kid understands absolutely everything and gets not only the closeness with the parent, but also the vocabulary, stories, information, colors,